must do what we do. Believe, not in a dream or our gifts, but in each other.
Make them mind your weather, sister.
And them weather your mind.
All right, so welcome to our second X-Men 97 review. This is the Cartoon Insider, where cartoonists talk about animation, comics, and all things related to the medium and industry to which we are a part. I'd like to welcome back Larry Houston, producer of the original X-Men series, and also consultant on the new X-Men 97. He knows all the inside scoop. Not that he's going to tell us everything, but and then welcome back Rick Hoberg, also storyboard artist on the original X-Men series, character designer, and general artist extraordinaire.
Yeah, we're two of the mighty three. Was Rick Hoberg, Will Mineo, myself. We got it all done.
Hopefully we'll get Will on here eventually. Today we'll cover 6 through 9. So that just leaves one more, right, Larry? Just the
Yeah, next week is the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you gotta wait a whole year for the next
Right.
next batch.
We'll have to do a separate one just for that season finale. I'm sure there will be tons to talk about. There's tons to talk about now. There's some things that I missed from that first go around that are worth talking about. One of which is the episode directors. There's Emmy, and then the episodes alternated between her and Chase Connolly. So I just wanted to give him a shout out.
Yes.
He's doing an incredible. They're all doing incredible jobs. There's Jake Castorena. I think he directed, supervising director, but also directed the first episode.
Yeah, he's the director on top of the other two.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah.
Also, want to give a shout out to Bo DeMeo, who got this thing off the ground in the first place, right? With his pitch.
Yep. It was his pitch that got him on board for getting the X-Men on the air, and his pitch for like season 1 and season 2. And so
yeah, and everybody on the internet is wondering about this guy. Is he going to return? Will they bring him back? I don't know if you can say anything on that subject. I'm assuming you can't.
I can't because I don't know. And everybody's tight-lipped. And so whether or not it comes back or not, it's probably going to be they said it was a mutual decision that he left from Disney and him. So
okay,
it would have to be a mutual for them to bring him back again.
Right. So yeah, really impressed with what he's done for the show as well. And also really got to give a shout out to Chris Claremont, because so far it's been mostly his storylines that have been shaped into the new series. As we progress, is transitioning into others as well.
One of the storylines that they put into the series was, and I wasn't familiar with it, was something from Grant Morrison, where he created this giant robot that basically wiped out Genosha, which wasn't Chris Claremont's, his other writer, but they incorporated that little segment of his storyline into this.
Is that the tri-faced?
Yes, yeah. So that's where that came from. The onslaught of killing all the mutants came from that storyline, not Chris.
Very cool. Yeah, and then me and Rick were just talking about this. Neither one of us are quite as familiar with the storyline that he came from, but Bastion, who has come to the forefront in the more recent episodes, was from an era that was beyond the Claremont era.
I'm not sure how good of authority I'm going to be after that, because to be honest, after our show ended in '97, I lost track of the stories, the X-Men stories, after about 2003 or 4.
Me too, for the most part.
Me too.
There are a few I came back for. Brubaker did a really good run, and we'll get to that, because I actually noticed a character that was in the forefront of his run that appeared in episode 6, and that's Vulcan.
Oh God, yes.
And Vulcan was a major player in that Brubaker run, and I'm wondering if they're going to get to that. I think it was called the Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire.
Oh, yeah. It's like Scott Summers' father just couldn't keep it hidden away. I mean, he's got siblings everywhere now. They just keep expanding the Summers family.
So
Mhm.
that who Vulcan was?
Yeah, the father
Summer?
is Kosar. Yeah, he's a brother, half brother of Scott Summers.
Gotcha.
And there's
Yeah.
another one which I can't remember. The one he's some kind of another brother that can blow
Oh,
your
that's
blood.
Havoc. That's
Huh?
Havoc. Havoc.
No, no, I know Havoc, but there's another one.
Oh, there's a third
Yeah,
brother?
there's another brother. Yeah, and he's some kind of he can boil your blood or
Uh-huh.
some fan don't know who it is. I have no idea, but I saw it. It's like, man, when are they going to stop expanding the Summers family?
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
before we get to episode 6, I know last time I was just so excited to have you, and we had so much fun talking about the episodes, but also going back to the original series. But one of the things I wanted to give a shout out to from that first batch of episodes were in episode 1, there was that opening action sequence with Cyclops and that very inventive use of his powers. That was amazing. Um, the dramatic and moving finale where Magneto gives his speech and Storm loses her powers
Mm-hmm.
was just like amazing television. I don't even, it's
Yeah,
like
it's great.
not even just
Yeah.
like a great cartoon or piece of animation. It was just very moving, awesome. So yeah, there was a lot of great stuff. And then what I thought was one of my favorite episodes issues. One of my favorite issues from the Uncanny X-Men run was 186. It was a double-sized issue by Barry Windsor Smith, and it was called Life Death, and that's what they called those couple of episodes. Um, I believe I can't remember which specific episodes those were from that first batch, but that's where
Right.
Storm goes into Forge's care and has eventually, she's lost her powers and eventually regains them, which and
Right.
is presented in her new uniform, which was actually the old classic uniform, which made
Right.
me really happy because that's my favorite uniform.
Oh, me
Uh,
too.
and I just love that they keyed off of that. One of my favorite issues.
Yeah, they did. It was they've gone after a lot of the key storylines that occurred after our show ended, and yeah,
Mhm.
and knowing they had they only had 10, but we had 13, so they went after a lot of these key storylines to get it out there for the first season for everybody to enjoy.
Yeah. And one of the things that I guess before we jump in here to the new episodes that I'm wondering, I'm sure other people are wondering, um, I've heard that it's official that the series has been renewed for seasons 2 and 3. Is that correct?
Well, I'm working on season 2, so
Oh,
that
there
can
you go. Okay.
I can tell you we have a season 2. Yes,
Awesome.
so
And
that's what I'm
hopefully
working
season
on.
3, hopefully more beyond. I mean, you could really go for 10 years easily with the storylines that they haven't adopted.
Yeah, I mean with the pod, I have another meeting with next week, but at Disney. But everything looks positive for season 3, but I can't confirm it. But everything looks positive for it. Yes.
Awesome. So the show obviously is a hit. The news you read online, I heard like as many as 4 million viewers watched the debut episode, and so that was
Hmm.
considered a large number by today's standards.
Yeah.
But I heard from other uh, reports that it wasn't necessarily as big a numbers as some of the other shows or something. So I don't know, but obviously it's been good enough for you guys to get renewed. So I would assume that it's in the hit category. All right, so episode 6. That was the one that introduces the Shi'ar. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Xavier's with his
Yeah.
girlfriend.
Yeah, it opens up with the death bird attacking.
Hmm.
And that's where we get that cameo with Vulcan. Uh,
Right.
I guess I was a little disappointed not to see the Starjammers anywhere in there. I love those guys.
I thought Gladiator was in there.
He's not a Starjammer though. He's part of the Imperial.
Oh, that's right. He's part of the Imperial government.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
no, the jammers were pirates, they're not going to be part of any of that scenario you said. They're like outliers, like, doing what they want to do.
right.
Independence.
That's
Yeah.
got that, that has Scott Summers' dad
Yep.
as the leader of that. And I loved that you guys included them in the original series, and hopefully they'll show up at some point. Because they're very cool.
Yeah. I mean, the nice part about the writing in our show, when we brought Starjammer, his Corsair, and Scott, um, we implied to the audience that, Jean saw that, hey, that's your father, but she didn't want to tell him at the time. We
Mhm.
actually had a separate episode where he confronted us like, oh shit. I mean, sorry. That's your dad.
You can say shit on.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think
Uh,
that'll make us put us into the adults only category. Maybe
okay.
maybe other words will, but I think
Okay.
yeah. You
And
know,
so yeah,
Don't
I
encourage me.
yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, it's interesting how they're setting up very um these space empires, the Skrulls, the Shi'ar, the Kree. And man, you think it's I was trying to think the analogy is like, what is that, China and Russia, and I mean these real
Whoops.
The United
these,
States, I felt like, but
yeah.
I wanted to talk about that a little bit, Larry, because I did know that was one of the interesting things about that episode. Um, the comic at its best would do the same, where it was more than just fun escapist entertainment there. And I'm assuming this was Mateo's sort of take on it, was to give it that political commentary angle, which I thought was pretty interesting. Um,
Yeah.
I personally, yeah, I felt like the Shi'ar Empire could be analogous to any modern day global empire, China, Russia, or the United States, to be honest.
Yeah.
And he had that interesting quote and criticism of Rudyard Kipling's "The White Man's Burden," uh,
Hmm.
and where basically the poem, which I'm familiar with, I was required to read that in school, and I think it was probably viewed differently back then. But it's this idea that the white man's burden and Rudyard Kipling was part of the British colonial empire, and his take with the poem was it was our burden, the white man's burden, to look after our brown brothers in these other countries, like India,
Yeah.
I guess would be a classical, to raise
Hmm.
them up out of barbarism or whatever
Right.
they viewed their culture.
Right.
Uh, and because Cohen was like, we know best and we could shepherd them into something better, which is problematic for sure. I think it was Xavier was quoting this to the gladiator, who we were just talking about, the leader of the Imperial Guard, and you know, basically saying, this you're basically in the role of
Right.
British colonial empire, trying to force your ways upon others for a burden that was never necessarily asked for by the other.
Right.
And I thought that's pretty interesting. That's reaching pretty high for a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of young people may not understand it, but
Hmm.
yeah, it was very profound moment for to put in a cartoon show, of that political aspect.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about all we grew up with in our comic books. First it was the Skrulls, then it was the Kree, now you got the Shi'ar, which to me almost reminded me of like the Ottoman Empire, where it's
Mhm.
because of the superpower characters they have on their side. They pretty much run the gambit. They run the table because they're so overwhelmingly powerful. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Right. It's sort of as an intergalactic empire, it's sort of the opposite of the Prime Directive
Yeah.
in
Yeah. Yeah. And
it
it's like,
shows you maybe why the Prime Directive's not such a bad idea.
yeah, yeah, allow the cultures to mature. I
Right.
guess that's part of, like in Star Trek, I guess we were ignored until we got the warp drive, and then the Vulcans went, oh,
Yeah. No,
you know,
that was the marker. Like, leave them alone till they figure out how to get that technology on their own. And once they
right,
do, and they have that capability, then we might as well put out the welcome mat.
right,
And
yeah.
but
That
interfering before there's that other quote, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So even if your intentions as an empire are good,
right,
you had priests, by the other Portuguese Empire being sent to other countries to spread, the gospel or whatever. And supposedly that was supposed to be a good thing to help the natives or whatever, but it just
right,
ended up being a tool for the empire as a way
Yeah,
of exploiting the population and
right.
taking their resources and co-opting them. So, and as we discussed it also, I guess this did wrap up the life death storyline in this episode as well, because
Mhm.
this also had Norm returning to her classic era costume.
Yeah, it was really great to see her empower herself and fly back, and the
Uh-huh.
original costumes back on again, and she got the full head of hair. I mean, everybody on the internet was going, "Yay!"
yeah,
Yeah.
and to see all the rest of them get into traditional costumes was fun
Oh,
too.
on the last one,
That was awesome.
on
Yeah.
episode
Yes.
9. Yeah, we'll get to that because that was
Yeah.
awesome. That's because that, yeah, for me, that hits me in the feels big time
Oh,
because
me too.
that
Me
is
too.
my
Yeah.
favorite era is um, the Burn era with Claremont is just me unbeatable. So
Right.
that was super cool. And then I remember even feeling the same sense of initial betrayal that Kitty felt. Kitty has been replaced in your series by Jubilee, so she's sort of a stand-in for her.
Right.
But when Storm cut her hair into that mohawk after what happened to her in with the Morlocks, uh I felt that same sense of betrayal, like, because all of a sudden she like had this mohawk and these leathers. I was like, where's my Storm? What
Um,
happened? But Claremont has been quoted as if he could describe his run on the X-Men with one sentence or one phrase, it's about change. So
mhm.
not leaving anything static. So yeah, I came to appreciate it. These characters, and that was what was great about the run overall, is that the characters do evolve, they do change, not just their look, but in other ways as well. Some characters tap in more into their good side, like Magneto, which was interesting to see. To watch him become the head of the school at the beginning of this new series was interesting, and to see the events that caused him to turn back to the other side was also uh, interesting and also tragic as
Yeah.
well. It was very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so moving on to episode 7, unless there was something else you wanted to include with episode 6, Larry, or
Um, I think I'm good. I'm trying to
Mhm.
sick. I was trying to remember because I'm all the way up. I'm in season 2, but yeah, my brain is like season 6. Yeah.
Season
I mean,
2,
I'm
tell, do
episode 6.
tell. Let's hear about that season 2. No,
Yeah.
no, I know we can't.
Oh God, no, no.
Oh, I
But
can't. I'm so curious.
oh geez.
Yeah,
But
I won't ask you to say anything about season 2. Yeah, it's
it
too
will
confidential.
2 will be interesting.
I know. That's all you should say. I don't want you to
Careful,
Uh,
endanger your job
Vince
or
is gonna
anything.
set up a thing where every time he says season 2, you have to take a shot. So be careful about that.
Do tell.
do tell. Oh God, no.
Yeah.
Oh geez. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually afraid I might get something out of you that might get you into trouble. So, well, moving on. moving on to episode 7. I don't have the title for that one, but that one opens with the funeral for Gambit,
Oh, right,
right?
right.
And there was some, and as in the original series, there are lots of interesting cameos. Can you confirm that one of the characters that was standing near Scott was Aurora from Alpha Flight? Because people online are wondering about that.
You know, I got it. Those are one I asked Jake about certain people, but I forgot to ask him about that one. And
Everyone's
I
wondering,
will,
like screenshots of it appearing everywhere. Who's this silver-haired lady?
yeah, I'll ask because I did not know. I assumed it was Aurora, but I'll have to double check
Hmm.
because I wasn't sure because it looked like her. I mean, they took a lot of the models are from our show.
Oh, okay.
You know, Belladonna was in the audience and some
Oh,
of the
nice.
thieves and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll check. Maybe next time on the next one I can confirm who
Yeah.
she was.
Because Aurora was in she's part of Alpha Flight, and she was in season 2, or was that season 1? I can't remember, but they were there. That was probably season 1 actually, because that went into your whole Weapon X storyline. Although that could have been season 2. I
It's
can't
season
remember.
2. Season
That is
2.
season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I was super excited because also I love Alpha Flight. That was that whole era with the Burn X-Men and then also the Burn Alpha Flight. So good. And they were introduced in the X-Men series.
Mon Dieu, Wolverine, stop fighting us. Please, mon ami, do not force us to do this. Better listen to the Frenchies, big fella.
This time, for all our sakes, stay down.
Better get the shackles on him while we still can.
So that was very cool. Also front and center in this episode was Rogue, and
Oh,
really things
she's
going on
pissed.
with her as she's investigating what happened in Genosha, and trying to right, and trying
Yep.
to trace back where that originated from, and by the end of it, tapping more into her anti-hero side.
Right.
Something a little more hardcore, which some people I was noticing were not happy with. It's like, that's, like, who's this rogue? But that rogue is the rogue, I
That's the
think,
first
from
Rogue.
because the rogue was part of the Brotherhood of Evil.
Yep.
And she had to come to the good side.
Yep.
So, and I think it's very well motivated to see how she could kind of turn to that darker side after everything that's happened with basically a genocide happening,
Right.
mutants in Genosha.
Tell Summers his wife's cute psychic probes won't work this time. Not against this. Not against him.
Honey, this ain't that sort of probe. Quit fighting
me! I thought it was pretty cool how she, during that, her as she's following her lead, she ends up encountering Captain America. My boy Cap.
I saw that.
I had some mixed feelings about that because I love Captain America so much. But I think it was handled well because they sort of ended up being at odds with each other. And then she really disses my boy by taking his shield like, I don't, into outer space. I don't know.
I mean, way the hell over
there. Yeah, they just cut back to Cap and he's just like, like,
yeah.
So, but I get it because the Captain America I know is not someone that automatically sides with the government. In fact, he will side against the government based on his own inner beliefs.
Right.
Core beliefs, which are true and blue. But I get that he needed to do it within the system because the path that Rogue needed to pursue led her to another country, Mexico City.
Right. Right.
So, and he was basically saying, I can't just show up there with the Avengers in my red, white, and blue in another country and not create a political incident out of it.
Yeah.
We have to do this through the channels.
Yeah.
Right.
So it made sense to me. I think it was well handled. I did also notice that they did a mistake on Cap's costume where his arms were solid blue without the white on it. And
Oh, I didn't.
I was
Really?
like,
I didn't see that.
that's
Huh.
a
Yeah, I
nice,
didn't see that.
and I was like, oh, that's sort of a nice nod to old school animation where we would see it all the time. You know?
At least he didn't turn his head and his mouth stayed over here.
Over here, yeah.
Or the eyes weren't crossed. That was another
Right.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
man.
doing.
Yeah.
So, but that was fun. It was fun to see them together, and great action with Rogue. And during the aftermath too, I noticed there were a lot more cameos in there, too numerous to mention. But Emma Frost was also introduced in that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And introducing her diamond form
Yeah.
now.
Is what
Yeah.
allowed her to survive. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they develop her in future episodes. I think that's going to be cool. And then yeah, Nightcrawler too. Nightcrawler, I guess, was introduced actually in 6, right? And then I know intro to that, they actually put him in the intro, so I was very excited about that.
Yeah. A lot of those intros, you probably already know this. They brought me in to do all of those intros. And so we kind of redid the original intro, but they had me redesign basically set pieces that they could just drop in and drop out, move around. And
Wow.
so I've done a lot of those
Uh-huh.
working with the director, with Jake and Emmy
Mhm.
and
Chase.
and Jason, yeah. And so we the 3 directors were four of us, we all just kind of like created those, but I directed all of those.
That's
Oh,
really cool because you and Will and Rick like who
No,
boarded
that was Will and Larry.
it
Yeah.
was Will and I.
Yeah.
I did a version of about 3 minutes long
Mhm.
of a opening title, and then once everybody saw it, obviously can't use it all.
Yeah.
So between Margaret and Will, I said, okay, let's do this type of opening. So Will did the opening with the flyback with the girls and the ships and stuff, all the way up to Cyclops blowing his eyeballs out, and then I took it from there. Basically, I just sat down and I just said, okay, I just let the movie roll, and I just started doing this to just let it all pour out of my subconscious, and
Mm.
then we just here
Let-
here it is, and then we just cut
Yeah,
and paste.
you do great intros because you also boarded the intro to G.I. Joe the movie,
Yes.
and I don't want to digress into that. 'Cause I could geek out on that for an hour, but yeah, you do great intros, man.
Oh, thank
He
you. Yeah.
does.
Cool.
was-
Yeah, and Will does too. He's some of the other shows he's, I mean, it's hard not to digress. I will just say, my own brief experience working directly with Will is actually what brought me to LA, and he brought me to LA to work on Captain America, set in World War II.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
TV show that never aired. I was so excited, and it was shaping up so cool. And Will did this great intro. He boarded out this great intro for that show, which maybe I could talk to him about at some point and show people. It was
Yeah.
very. So anyway, yeah, you guys are
How
known.
many times did we come up with an idea to do Captain America and it never got done, Larry? I've got a
Yeah.
whole a model book that I worked on for them for the one we were going to do over at Marvel Productions.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was gonna say if you remember that, because I
Yeah.
think we had some characters called the Skull Busters, where the
Yep.
was the team, and
uh,
we had done a Captain America, like I think he gets flung into the future where he has to represent to this young bunch of kids how to free the world from this invasion.
That was
or-
another iteration. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was an iteration altogether. Yeah.
Yeah.
They kept trying and never got anything off the ground.
Yep. Will was successful. At least he got animation done.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, yeah, even he couldn't quite. I mean, it went into production. I was getting paid a paycheck, and in the middle of it, they just pulled the rug out from the whole production. It was like we were doing it one day. I'm digressing, but
Well, that was so common back in the day.
Yes.
I
That
got
happened a lot.
to work at Saban. Working in-house for the first time at the Saban office, and they put me in this little corner with some table space, and I was just working off of at that time just more of an outline, and Will was just like, go have fun, it's Cap fighting Nazis. Or actually they'd been changed to Hydra. They couldn't do Nazis, they couldn't show the swastika, they couldn't mention Hitler, they couldn't have any Nazi references in the cartoon.
Yeah, we had the same problem.
And it's like, why? Who are we worried? Are we worried about offending Nazis? Like, Nazis
We have.
it's good that they're bad. We should whatever. And then I started off in-house, and then I was delegated to working at home for whatever. We lost the space, and I was working at home for about 3 weeks, and then a friend of mine from Disney, it was Tomas actually, Rick. Tomas called me and he said, "Hey, did you hear that they canceled the show?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? Cancel the show? I'm working on it right now." He's like, "No, they canceled it like 2 weeks ago." I'm like, "What?" I've been waiting for this for 2 weeks. I've been waiting for this. So I called them. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's canceled." It's like, well, gee, I could have told me that. Oh, so yeah, that was sad.
You know, we're running down on time, and I'm the only one who hasn't used the curse word. So I gotta use,
Let's
I gotta
get
use my
back to
curse
that.
word before.
Yeah, let's get back to the
It's up there.
All right, so yeah, episode 7, I think we've covered that pretty well. Emma Frost, very cool. Episode 8, Tolerance is Extinction, Part 1, and that was directed by Chase.
Yeah.
We had cameos by Polaris, Rachel Summers, Baron Zemo, Spider-Man, Doctor Doom.
Dr. Doom, yeah.
Yes.
Mega Red. The cool thing about this episode is it revealed itself as part of the Marvel universe. This isn't just the X-Men.
Right.
Like, oh, there's Spider-Man. All right, there's Doctor Doom. So Fantastic Four has got to be out there somewhere. The Avengers are probably out there somewhere. I thought that was super cool. And then that's the one that carried through the Bastion storyline. That the storyline for that was called Zero Tolerance, which is one that I have not read in detail. Also, the highlight for that episode, the one that people are talking about, and rightly so, is the incredible fight scene between Nightcrawler and these things that were taken over by the virus.
Right.
And Wolverine was part of that as well. Nightcrawler was holding 3 swords, 2 with his hands and 1 with his tail.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Incredible choreography, and there's this great, awesome scene where Nightcrawler bamfs and teleports with an opponent and Wolverine, and we get to see what that looks like.
Right.
Perspective as it goes into this weird dimension, and that was like, oh, so great. I don't know if that was in the original script like that, or it's something that the board artist came up with, or the director. These things are always a collaboration of multiple talents, but dude, that thing was amazing.
Yeah. It shows you how good you can make a show when you have Disney money.
Yeah.
Okay? You can have full animation.
Yeah.
And that translates to time too. I know they spent a lot of time working and reworking, and And I think there was probably a lot of quality control of the animation coming back. And
Mhm.
there is in general in a way which you guys weren't able to take advantage of. When you needed retakes back in the 90s with cell animation, you couldn't just draw over it yourself and fix it
Oh no,
out. So you had right a much more
no.
cumbersome and complicated process. But unless there's anything else you wanted to say on episode 8, that takes us to episode 9. That's the one that just aired.
Right.
Was directed by
I was trying to think about 8. The uh, hmm. No, let's go on to 9. It'll pop back in my head.
um that one I haven't even had time to process. That one just aired, so it was great. The highlight for me, two highlights. One highlight Rick mentioned, it was, and I'm not even sure why, but the X-Men go on their mission with their classic costumes. Is that to present themselves to the world as more classic heroes? What was the motivation for them climbing into their old costumes?
Other than the directors wanting to have fun, there's
Mm,
no verbal reason why.
okay.
They just wanted to go back and they wanted to showcase those costumes.
Well,
And
finally, I was
yeah,
down with it.
yeah,
And
I
I almost thought that was your idea, Larry, because that was really you know, an Easter egg moment, you know, and I just thought it was lovely to not only see Jean in her costume because she hasn't really been in costume this whole time,
right.
and Wolverine changing over to his brown and orange costume, you
Yeah,
know.
Yeah.
favorite version.
Well, I know they wanted to with Jean, they wanted to make what they were doing was reminiscent of the Phoenix Saga, where
Yep,
Jean
yep.
puts on a costume and they're fighting to the death together,
A Marvel.
as a couple.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, I remember Emmy liking that during that moment. But
Oh,
verbally, there was no reason why. But I know the directors wanted to have that moment.
great choice. It just feeds into the overall nostalgia we have for classic X-Men.
And the dialogue was really awesome too, last night. I love the that moment. What was that specifically, Larry, where Jean and Aurora said things to each other that mirrored each other? They said
Oh,
something,
yeah, it was
the
something. Uh,
power of the mind and the mind of the power, you know. And she's
uh,
mind your
it,
power.
it's something with the word weather. Uh,
Yeah, I thought it was a weather related thing too.
yeah, that they want weather. Yeah, it's a phrase. They both turned the phrase to each other. I can't remember it
Yeah,
vividly, but
that was some nice writing. That was
yeah,
really good.
yeah, I enjoyed that too.
And the stuff between Magneto and Professor X, I thought that was the crux of pretty much everything we've seen was these 2 points of view and how
Yep.
complex they were. You know, they weren't just the bad guy saying, "I'm gonna get my way, I'm gonna destroy all of you." It was like, I have my reasons and you've corrupted my thoughts and process, and I'm gonna take my revenge for that. And I'm going, wow, that's more than most villains would ever say, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
way
And how screwed up Professor X felt. You could tell he was like going, "Oh God, what have I done?" You know.
Yep. Yeah.
the way
It's
the way they Magneto's sort of because in the comics, I mean, he's in the series, it feels like he's more justified to do that magnetic pulse that covers the planet,
right.
kind of saving the world from Bastion and his living sentinels, really, isn't he? Because they're just
Hmm.
and taking over the whole planet. So in a way, I didn't see that doesn't seem like such a bad thing to have done.
But the unseen consequences is that okay, nuclear reactors got
Civilization
turned.
shut
Yeah,
down. Yeah.
nuclear reactors shut down. Airplanes in flight probably crashed.
Right.
There's things that we depend on electronically. I mean, just traffic lights.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
We
that's
couldn't
true.
be able to text either.
That would have been oh wow. No social media for a moment. It would have been good to see some of that extra chaos, I think.
yeah,
Because that was
yeah,
just sort of like, because spoiler alert, at the end, Wolverine shanks Magneto. And
Yeah, yeah.
like, well, didn't this guy kind of save the world? I mean, maybe he did
It's all
create.
from a point of view.
Yeah,
Right.
so I
From
didn't like.
point of
I
view.
feel quite as justified, like to shank the guy. Like, why is he gotta go? Like, what did Magneto do? Like, he showed up and he brought down asteroid. Was that asteroid M? He
M.
brought.
Yep. Yep. That was Rick's design,
What did
by the
he?
way.
What,
Yeah, from the original. They took
From
that right from the
oh, that's
original.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
That's Rick's.
From Pride of the X-Men.
Yep.
That's what
From
the
Pride of
original.
the X-Men. That's the original design that he came up with.
That's really cool. Well, so but what did Magneto do that was so beyond the pale that
He
like
killed tons of mortals. He killed thousands, millions of mortals
Yep.
just by what he did. He
Yep.
certainly saved the mutants in a lot of ways, but not the human beings. He
he
didn't
always,
have any
always
concern for-
I mean, Magneto would say problem with the humans is they value humans more than mutants. And
Yeah, he will.
what
Right.
Xavier's message is like we all need to be seen as equal, where Magneto was like
Right.
on the other side is mutants over humans. So
Right.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, so interesting, so relevant
And
to
I think a lot of people have probably seen the first movie, the first live action movie, where they show he was in a concentration camp during World War II and what happened to him. And this also really gives him his point of view, a really interesting
it.
Yeah.
I gotta
Yeah.
it for a guy that was a child in World War II. He's looking pretty damn good for 97.
well, he's like Wolverine. He's long lived. He's
Yeah.
like 100 years old.
He's a
Yep.
mutant, though. That's
He's a mutant. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah,
You can give it that.
because his age would have to be at least late 60s or something in
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
the
easily.
Oh
90s.
yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
More
And
like
easily his philosophy is like never again, like the movie, when that First Class.
yeah. So yeah, the end of episode 9, that's right out of a famous X-Men issue that I did read. I believe it was
Fat-
25, X-Men 25.
Fatal Fatal Attractions, something like that.
Yeah, it's the one where Wolverine gets the adamantium pulled out of his body by
Right.
Magneto,
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes.
which was awesome. And that the consequences of that in the comics carried through for years, where he was just no longer this guy with an adamantium claws or skeleton. He just had regular bones underneath there.
Right.
Still had his healing factor.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. It makes him a little bit more vulnerable than he was before.
I don't not sure how close they're gonna stick to the comic books, but with his supposedly he can heal faster
Mhm.
without the adamantium because that was his body was always fighting the adamantium
Oh,
poisonings
right.
technically.
Yeah.
Without that, he can heal faster.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah,
And I remember you guys played that up too. I remember in the Weapon X storyline in season 2 of the original series, where that adamantium, you show the process of how that gets added to him and how painful that was and difficult.
yeah. For for Saturday morning, I had to figure out a way to bond metal into your bones, and it's like I did it all with graphics. It's like, okay, kids, this is how it happened. I'm not. I couldn't show you how it really happened.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah. Well, so great that you're involved with the new one, Larry. So you're able to be part of a show where they can really push it to the next level and they don't have nearly as many restrictions. And you guys are just making good cinema at this point.
Yeah, and
yeah. I
how
mean,
many times do you get to redo what you did before? I mean, it never
yeah.
happens in real life.
No, it doesn't,
If
and
you're a
it's like
cartoonist, so that's not real life to most people.
I I'm amazed that they that they called me back and to work on the show because when someone reboots a show, they never go back to the old people who actually created the first
They
draft of
ignore
it.
them in most cases.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's like who?
Well, they
Yeah,
just wanted to recapture the spirit of that old show. It's why it's a primary reason why it's so great. They didn't try and reinvent the wheel.
It's
Well, I think it's a thing that Disney is known for, is that, they want to keep story alive, and
mhm,
the X-Men had great stories, so it was just something to build off of that made it so much richer.
yeah. And I remember Jake, it was printed somewhere. We gave, you know, what we did, Will, Rick, and I, that what we created was we created the MCU before there was an MCU. We actually showed how to do it right, how
Yeah.
to do a Marvel comic book correctly.
Mhm.
And despite people telling me no, I was able to throw in cameos because I knew that would attract the fans
Mhm.
because I enjoyed it when I was reading Spider-Man comic book somewhere back in the 60s, and
Mhm.
one panel was Thor going through one frame, and Spidey,
Spider-Man is well, #1.
yeah,
Yeah,
and Spider-Man said,
Spider-Man.
"Hey, watch where you're throwing that thing," you know.
Yeah.
And before then, I had been reading DC Comics with and all of those stories had nothing to do with each other. They were all standalone. And that
Mhm.
was like when I saw that in the Spider-Man books, like, oh my God, they're in the same, I'm a kid. I think I was 6 or 7, that
Well,
was so
Stan
cool.
was smart in that this is a way to get you to buy a Thor comic book.
Yeah.
Well, he was really smart, but he was just doing good business. And
Yes.
DC, they gave autonomy to all of the editors who had control over like the Superman books and the Batman books
Yeah.
and the Green Lantern and the Flash books, and none of them wanted to share. So it
Right.
became, this problem that they never saw coming, and Marvel took advantage of it when they realized what they were doing.
Yep. And so that I wanted to recreate, that that excitement I had as a kid.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time I tried to put Spider-Man like somewhere in the background, they said no. And they never gave a reason. I know now why had to do it. They didn't want to give Saban any kind of
Mhm.
foothold into their merchandising.
Right.
But
For the
but
reasons.
the next time I saw an opportunity, it was like Slave Island or something. And
Mhm.
I brought my books in and I assigned it to all the traditional Marvel mutants, Avalanche and Blob and stuff like that. But I never used their real names.
Uh-huh.
So
That's a great thing, yeah.
they were like mutant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it went through the system because they didn't, Saban didn't know what the hell they were looking at. And as long as I put the word mutant in front of anything, they it right over their heads, you know.
Mhm.
So that's how I got them into this to this show.
Right.
Yeah, that's how you. Oh, that's a mute. That's Doctor Strange, but that's a mutant magician. There's Watcher, but that's a mutant alien.
Mhm.
It's that kind of thing. Just put mutant in front of it.
Yeah. Clever way to get it through. So yeah, shared universe and episodic, which is all what we love about the old comics, as opposed to everything being just sort of one and done. Really more disposable, really. It's just like you could just come into it at any time with any episode, get that one storyline. Didn't matter what order they were in, but it's so much more, yeah, rewarding to have it be shared and episodic, and that's yeah.
Yeah, it just creates more enjoyment, like chapters in a book. You read
Yep.
this, oh, here's another, oh, and it made you want to keep going to that. I think it was in LA, it was called thrifty drugstores. They had the spinner racks, and that's where I go and get my books.
Yeah, very good. Well, hopefully, as far as that shared universe goes, I mean, I doubt it. But what would be, I mean, because they introduced Roberto of who is the New Mutants,
And Captain America.
and
And
kept
And Captain
Doctor
America.
Doom, and
my
yeah.
Avenger.
There you go. There
Yeah,
you go.
there you-
Yes. Oh yeah. Sal
So
Buscema
which
and
one is
Sam
that?
Granger. I think
Um,
that's.
Yeah, that is the Sam Granger inking.
there's a good.
Oh,
Yeah, that's Sal.
with
But
Sal Buscema. Yeah.
that's and I got a of course direct on this version of the Avengers on Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Um,
My favorite shows to
Hmm.
work on. I thoroughly enjoyed. He got me the job. Vinton got me the job.
mhm.
Oh, cool. That's
Yeah.
great.
And I would love to see them come into this universe. That would be awesome. Or I'd like to see Roberto go off and have him do a New Mutant spinoff. This
Well,
man, like just like those, all with the classic characters. Be
well, what
amazing.
we've seen so far, they've shown Professor X in the hover chair, which is right out of the cartoon.
Yeah.
We've never seen the Beast in live action, again, it's the version out of the cartoon
Count.
Oh,
space.
Yeah.
right in the live action, you're saying, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's one other that we've seen too,
Mhm.
who is right out of this. Wolverine in the new Deadpool.
Oh yes, Deadpool.
So
Yes.
they're going more toward that
That's
version of the
true.
X-Men.
So hope fingers crossed. I hope that they go back to what another thing that made the old storylines work, which were the visual aspects.
You bet.
Yep.
Great.
The circus costumes.
Yeah. Works best.
Yeah,
It does.
they can do
You
it.
know, yeah, and I hope that what they're recognizing is that if you energize the fan base, I mean, you can't be 100% like the books, but if you can energize them that you have enough of the core of the identity of what you're working on, and you
Mhm.
put that into your live action films, man,
Mhm.
you're going to multiply the good information that gets shared all over social media is just going to drive your box office through the roof. Just try and not do arbitrary changes. Just try and stick with the core. I mean,
Mhm.
that to me works.
Yeah, that's right, James Gunn with your new Superman.
I knew you were going to bring that up. That whole thing about the collar, I'm just going, hey, man, you got the red underpants. What are you complaining about? You know?
Yeah.
I think he looks great. I like the look
He
of the
looks
kid.
good, but he does have I don't know. I think it's almost there. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's you can't complain about it too much, but it's this.
And that was a nice photograph, too, that he's like any other man putting on one boot at a
One at a
time.
time. Yeah.
I
Like,
like that.
well, you
Yeah.
like that? I mean, the
Yeah, I mean, he's just,
burning in the background, and he's slowly.
what is that in the background of that?
That was added. Those are added because
Yeah, but
they've been putting Godzilla and everything in the background.
is that what Superman does? Like when there's trouble, he like he sits on the edge of a bed and he slowly puts out at a time.
Yeah.
He like blurs in a flash, and he's Superman. I don't. I just no, no. But hopefully we'll see better images coming out.
Well, I
Yeah.
think it was supposed to be a something that was just to show that he is human too. He's
Right.
not just an alien Superman, basically.
Yeah.
The way
He's a
to do
human
that.
being.
There's a way to do that. Alex Ross posted two images side by side. He posted the new one that James Gunn released, and he posted his, which in part it was inspired off of. And it was Clark Kent, but he's in the Superman costume, but he's got the shirt open. You can see the S. He's still wearing his glasses. You can see the spit curl. It's like a hybrid, and he's sitting there in the chair, and you see like what's going on. Is he feeling the weight of all his responsibility in the world? It worked really well. But so the story that was being told from that image was very compelling. And if I had seen that, I'd have been like, yeah. But what I saw was Metropolis on fire in the and Superman slowly putting on his boots. And I was like,
I'm
that
not even sure what was going on in that photograph. Those images, it looked like there was 3 or 4 images of
threat.
beings
It
out
was
there.
some
But
kind of threat. It wasn't like a nice, happy thing. The thing that so it just didn't work for me. I expect better from James Gunn, but I'm sure he's a great director. He's a huge comic book fan, so I'm excited to see. I think the guy they picked for the lead is great. So, but we've gone
I
way
want
off
to see
X-Men
Metamorpho.
topic. So,
Way off topic. Yeah. Well, it's fun.
we're all
It's
nerds. So,
Yeah.
all
the
right.
one thing I'll mention at the end about Superman is that I just had dinner with Elliot S. Magan, one of the Superman writers.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and one of the little things
Mhm.
quotes he told me once was that what writers tend to write to the super and
Mhm.
not to the man. And he said if you can write to the man, you can get really good stories out of it.
Yeah.
Some writers get overwhelmed by all the powers he has and say, well, no, write to the man, and then that's where you can find good stories.
Very cool.
The best scene in Superman the movie is the one where he's standing out in the cornfield and his mother comes to him.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
the best scene in the whole movie. It's just
Yeah, I'm actually if you see Elliot again, say hi to him for me. I'm a fan of his run, but I didn't know until recently he had written Superman novels, and I'm currently reading one of them.
Oh, okay. I'll let him know that.
And yeah, it starts off with a very interesting take of Superman as a boy, um, in Smallville, and the insight that you can only really get from a novel as opposed to a comic into his character, I thought was really interesting. It's very cool.
All right. I'll let him know.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming on. And then if we can do this one more time for the finale, that'd be awesome.
Always fun. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That'll be great. We'll be here.
Well, until next time, I'll be seeing you.
All right.
Bye
There you go. Bye-bye, guys.
See ya.